Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzy. This is the Farzy Show, presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Oh, I just hope you guys just had a wonderful, beautiful Wednesday afternoon watching the Philadelphia Phillies play some baseball. How about that? First 6 innings, not a lot of fun. Rest of the game, this shows some life, including, of course, Trea Turner's game-tying 2-run home run in the bottom of the ninth inning. I'll tell you how I got to experience that, and we'll also talk about how the Phillies ended up winning that game yesterday. We'll talk about some free agents out there. We'll talk about one particular trade, one particular free agent when it comes to potentially helping, and tell me if this just sounds crazy, potentially helping the Philadelphia Eagles wide receiving core. I don't think they need a lot of help. But anyway, there's some hot names out there that a lot of people are discussing. We'll get into that. We'll also get into Nakobe Dean's press conference yesterday. Of all the players that spoke, Jordan Mailata, Devontae Smith, Josh Sweat, and Nakobe Dean, I most wanted to hear from Nakobe Dean because he's the one set to get the biggest promotion this season. And I wanted to know as much as I could. And you guys know we did the Sky Drive episode with him where we drove around courtesy of our wonderful sponsor, Sky Motor Cars, of course. And he talked about a lot of different things. But you know what he didn't talk about? The opportunity to be a starter like he'll have this season. So I want to get as much of a look into his mindset approaching this year. And I want to hear all the confirmation that he is going to be the starter as much as I can possibly hear, because I am looking forward to somebody who was drafted at a high spot for Eagles linebacker. Not drafted at all is a high benchmark for anyone who's playing linebacker for the Eagles, it seems. But yeah, third-round pick, putting that type of investment into a now starting middle linebacker. And if there's anybody that I am most excited to see or most I can't wait to see this season, it's Nakobe Dean. I'm excited, of course, to see Jalen Hurts and see this offensive line cook, and I'm excited to see what Devontae Smith does and DeAndre Swift and all these guys and what they can bring to the table, no question. But the guy that I'm most anticipating is Nakobe Dean, because we have not seen a third-round pick linebacker in quite some time, middle linebacker, playing for the Philadelphia Eagles. We've had 2 undrafted guys in a row in Singleton and Edwards, and now we're going to have an opportunity to see somebody that the Eagles actually looked at and said, oh, this guy can do some damage in the NFL. Let's see what he can do for us. And that's where we're at. So we'll go over to Nakobe Dean's press conference. We'll also hear from Rob Thompson on the win yesterday. We'll cover all things Philadelphia sports as we do each and every day here on the Farzy Show. So yesterday I'm watching this Phillies game unfold in front of our very eyes, and it was like life support. This team needed like a defibrillator. It was an awful game. Trea Turner's swings in his second to last at bat in the game were just dreadful. They might have been the worst successive swings I've ever seen in baseball. Swinging at a ball that bounces in front of you and then swing. And then, by the way, not only bounces in front of you, the catcher can't even get to it, and it bounces off the backstop. Next pitch was in the dirt as well, and he swung at that one too. That's terrible. I think it's booed off the field. But throughout this game, you were just waiting, hoping, begging for some sign of life, and it just wasn't coming. Phillies go down in the first inning of the game. Rivera gets the RBI ground out, so you're down 1-0 already. Ranger Suarez is on the hill. Then you get to the third inning. You get the 2-run double by Rivera. You're down 3-0. And then Evan Longoria steps up, and he hits a changeup that Ranger Suarez, the more appropriate way to say it, other than throw it, is he floated a changeup middle into Evan Longoria, who said, thank you very much, and belted that baseball off the facing of the second deck in left field. 423 feet to left field. Blasted the baseball. By the time it landed and Evan Longoria rounded the bases, you were down 5-0 in the third inning. And this isn't exactly what you wanted to see. You wanted to see some signs of life before a 10-game road trip started, all against NL East opponents. And mind you, one more time, You will not be facing these opponents as many times as you have in the past. So you have to capitalize even more on the rare times that you play them. So now we're looking at a 5-0 deficit in the third inning, and the Phillies about to embark on this 10-game road trip. So you're staring at brooms right now, and you getting swept out of your own home stadium after winning a series against the Chicago Cubs. You already lose this series against the Diamondbacks. You're trying to salvage one game in this series. So the game rolls on. Jake Kaufman comes into the ball game on in relief for Ranger Suarez. And then in the 6th inning, the Phillies actually, hey, get this, they show some sort of life. How about this? Bryce Harper leads off with a single. Nick Castellanos, unfortunately, flies out to center. Schwarber goes up there, and he lines out to left field. Then Cody Clemens, being the hero that he is, he gets a single. He now got runner at first and second with 2 outs. They take Gallen out of the game. Even Tom McCarthy during the broadcast was like, why would you do this? Why would you take him out of the game? They're just taking him out of the game. He's got a 5-0 lead. He's a hell of a pitcher, having a hell of a year again. They decided to go to the bullpen. They bring in Ginkel, and Ginkel finds a wrinkle. Well, Alec Boehm finds a wrinkle in Ginkel. Alec Boehm gets the RBI single to center field. You get to play Bryce Harper there. Clemens takes third in the inning on that particular play. I don't know why he took third, but he took third. It seemed like an ill-advised – I don't know if it was him going on his own, if it was Dusty Wathan waving him to go around, but they could have not scored a run. They could not have had a run across the plate. Harper, fortunately, was scoring on the play, but Clemens is rounding second base. He's heading for third. If they throw him out at third, Harper doesn't score. So fortunately, it was a bad throw. Clemens ends up being safe at third. Harper scores. It's now 5-1. And then Brandon Marsh comes up there with the 2-run single. It's now a 5-3 ball game. Stubbs strikes out to end the threat there in the 6th. 7th inning, they roll through. All is right with the world. 8th inning, same thing. And then the 9th inning. Now, here's something personal. So as you guys know, I've been hosting the JAKIB Media post-game show following the Phillies games. And there was some conflicts, kind of came together late, and there was one particular date on the calendar that I couldn't do the post-game show, and it was yesterday's date. And I thought, you know what, this event, I have to host an event, a charity event, and I can't bail on it. It's 20 minutes from my suburban house. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. It's 20 minutes. I can potentially do both. If the Phillies even play a halfway decent game, if they play like they're even a little bit past what their average length of a game has been, I can still make this event. I can do the post-game show and still make this event. So I'm watching this game go on, and I'm like, we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it. I'm not going to be able to do a post-game show. This game's taking forever. So I think it was the 8th inning. Not only could I not do the post-game show because the game was taking so long, but in a day where I just needed the Phillies to play an average amount of time, they play their longest game of the year. Because, of course, they did, because screw my schedule. Okay, that's it for the personal thing. So now I got to go to this event. So I'm watching the Phillies game, 7th inning, 8th inning. I swear this is exactly how it happened. 9th inning, I see JT Realmuto approach the plate. I see JT Realmuto make it out, and I go, you know what? All right, you got 2 outs now because Marsh struck out, and then Realmuto pinch hit for Stubbs, and Realmuto grounds out to third, and I'm like, all right, I gotta go. All right, it was like the type of situation where I was 20 minutes away, and it was like I had to be at the event. I think at 4:45, and it was like 4:25. So I was like, I gotta leave now. So I get in the car, punching in the navigation, all that stuff, and I'm driving. And I turn the radio on. I just want to hear the reaction. I want to hear what people saying about Trea Turner, you know. And I turn the radio on, and I still hear Scott Fransky's voice, and I'm like, huh? What? What's going on? And then it's the Kimbrel thing where in the 10th inning, first off, the Diamondbacks are having an issue with Kimbrel. Kimbrel has an issue with the Diamondbacks. Rob Thompson was having an issue with how they were calling Craig Kimbrel and what they were doing with his wind up and pitching out of the stretch. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it's like, and here we go, heading into the now bottom of the 10th inning. And I'm like, bottom of the 10th? What the hell happened? So I get to a red light. very important. I get to a red light, go to my phone, and I'm like, oh my God, Trea Turner. Meanwhile, my mentions are blowing up because after Trea Turner struck out swinging on back-to-back pitches, like just saying they're in the dirt is a nice way to say it. But after Trea Turner struck out on those two pitches, I couldn't help myself. I had to say it. And I don't think I've even said it on this show yet, but I had to say it. Trea Turner at the plate has been giving me Odubel Herrera vibes. That's how bad he's been at the plate, like how lost he has been at the plate. And Odubel Herrera, for the record, let's not forget, swung at a pitch that bounced between his legs. Okay? Odubel Herrera swung at a pitch that bounced between his legs. And Trea Turner's up there at the plate swinging at back-to-back pitches in the dirt. So, yeah, kind of giving me Odubel Herrera vibes at the plate. So I see then on Twitter, there's a long red light, by the way. I see on Twitter that, what do you think of Odubel? What do you think of Trea Turner now? And I'm like, in fairness. And I waited to respond because, I was in the car. But in fairness, the most Odubel Herrera thing ever is swinging at a pitch between your legs or swinging at a ball in the dirt and then doing something that actually helps the team win. But anyway, Trea Turner goes up there in the bottom of the ninth inning after Bryson Stott gets a walk, 2 outs at this point, and he belts that home run to left field, swinging at the first pitch. I've told you guys before, that's not something that I always get upset about. I know a lot of people don't like it. You should take the first pitch, especially against a bullpen guy you haven't seen, and Ruiz is on the bump for the whatever the hell their name is, the Diamondbacks, and he throws a hanger. Now, Jim Hyden, producer extraordinaire, he's still a baseball man. He's always a baseball man. He's never not a baseball man. But he's a ball player himself, right? He's pitched a little bit. I asked him, I said, before the show, I go, hey there, Jim, when you let go of that curveball, right, at any level, if you're throwing curveballs, from the last piece of that ball that touches your finger, when you release that ball, oh, crap. If you've ever thrown a curveball at any level, and especially like Jim, if you throw that, from the second that ball is it hasn't even left your hand yet, but you just know something's off with the grip. You just know that it feels like it might sail, it might float, it might hang. And Ruiz throws this ball, and I'm watching it, and when I watched the replay of it, I went, oh, dear God, softball. It's a softball pitch is what it is. And Trea Turner saw it from jump, and it was coming inside, and he pounced on it. 2-run home run left field. Tie ball game, 5-5 against the Diamondbacks. There's life at CBP. And the people that were just booing Trea Turner off the field, and I would have been one of them if I was there, are now standing on their feet, and they're cheering their asses off for the man. As they say in the movie Gladiator, the mob is fickle, brother. The mob is fickle. And although every boo is justified when it comes to Trea Turner and his previous performance to that at bat, you still want the guy to do well. You're not booing, hoping he continues to suck. That's not how it works. You want him to do better. We're all seeing what's going on. Trea Turner, and I've given him credit for this. He acknowledges that he's not doing well. It's not like, oh yeah, it's just a small thing and I'll be fine. Like, it's not like that. It's like, yeah, I'm terrible right now. I suck at this. It should be better. Yeah. So he belts that home run, and a lot of people are feeling a lot better. After the game, Rob Thompson was talking about it, how this could be his moment of turning things around. And Rob Thompson even said this could be our moment as a team to turn things around and start building momentum, especially going into a road trip like this, 10 games and all that stuff. So seeing that ball fly out of the park was fantastic. And I was thinking, and as I'm sure many of you are thinking still, that this could be the moment. You hope this is the moment that Trea Turner turns it around as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. And we start seeing that $300 million man. All right, let's hope that that's the case. Then, of course, the game goes on. And you go into that 10th inning. First off, Kimbrel is able to pitch a 1-2-3 top of the 10th inning. And then Ruiz still pitching for Arizona, by the way. They intentionally walk Kyle Schwarber. Now you have 2 runners on, so let's not forget about that. You have a runner at second base already. Then he walks Clemens as well. And then Alec Boehm steps up there and just belts a baseball to right field, just out of the reach of the right fielder. And he is able to get the walk-off win. They dump plenty of water on Alec Boehm to celebrate the 6-5 victory before heading on this road trip. you know, I'd say this a lot, but sports are funny in general. Baseball is a funny game because I feel like baseball, you can have a pitching change and all of a sudden everything's completely different. You know, in football, you can have a turnover and things are different. But even in that, it just doesn't feel like the same as baseball. When you're watching a baseball game and you're seeing a lifeless team like the Phillies looked for the first particularly 5 innings of that baseball game, it's so dull and drab. And then you're also watching the opponent put up 5 runs. You're thinking, oh my God. Like, even if there is a spark like there was for the Phillies in, what did I say, the 5th inning there, when you get a couple of runs, 6th inning there, when you get a couple of runs across the plate, even then, you're like, okay, it's a start, but you still got another 2 runs you got to put on the board there. But then the Gallon goes out, Ginkel goes in, and then all of a sudden there's some life. And you're thinking, okay, you know what? A bloop and a blast. A bloop and a blast. If in baseball, if you could get to the phrase, you know what? A bloop and a blast. You're 2 runs. Then you feel like you're in striking distance. 5-0, not necessarily striking distance. But you get to a 2-run lead or a 2-run deficit, you feel like bloop and a blast. And the next thing you know, a couple of walks, a big hit, you're back in this, baby. So you're watching the game yesterday and you're just, oh God, they're really going to get swept. And now you're going to go on this 10-game road trip. And the next time I'll see this team at home, they could be like totally out of it. And then all of a sudden they have a little rally. Next thing you know, they have the big hit in the 9th inning. And then they get another big hit in the 10th inning. Baseball's a funny game, man. Baseball's a funny game. Here's Rob Thompson, Phillies skipper, talking about it after the game about how big this win was.
Huge win. I really do. One of the biggest wins we've had in the last couple of years, really. Get down 5 early and, looked like we were kind of dead in the water. And they just kept grinding and kept fighting and got a couple of big hits in, what was it, the 6th or 7th to cut it to 2. And then, Trea gets a big home run and, it's great. It's a great win.
I really hope that this is something that turns it around for everybody, not just Trea Turner. But let's acknowledge that Trea Turner is the one that needs the biggest turnaround. I even said yesterday, you're looking at this team right now and all the guys that should be performing better or guys that have been in slumps. JT Realmuto was in a slump. He broke out of it yesterday, 2 days ago now. Brandon Marsh was in a slump. He broke out of it yesterday with shoulder inflammation, which is great that he's fighting his way through that. But guys have been in their slumps. Kyle Schwarber, banger bust type of guy, obviously, at the plate. There have been guys throughout this team that have been frustrating. Nick Castellanos hitting a little bit of a wall as well. You go up and down the lineup and talk about this. Alec Boehm has gone through his struggles, of course. But the guy that was really grinding my gears was Trea Turner. And to see him come up there, I hate to use the word redemption, but that's the best word for it. He gets that redemption by coming up with the big swing. I certainly hope that this turns things around for him. But yeah, there's no better way to describe it as far as I'm concerned and put the thought in people's head than Odubel Herrera vibes at home plate. And then he hits the 2-run homer to tie things up. I've talked about booing our own players before, and I've talked about how it's been justified. I talked about how we booed the Philadelphia Eagles after they won the Super Bowl the night they unfurled the banner at Lincoln Financial Field on national TV. They're getting booed off the field at halftime, and Malcolm Jacobs came out after the game and said, you know what? We deserved it. I'd boo us too. What are we giving them the cheer about? Nothing. I like when the players have our back, and they understand what it is to play in Philadelphia, where you're always going to be playing in front of a very honest fan base. Well, there is no better justification, ladies and gentlemen, for a player being booed. Not that we need justification, but there's no better justification than a player being booed by us than when his own mother boos him. Huh? After the game, now this is my old friend Dave Uram of he's now KYW News Radio. He was standing right there with the KYW News Radio mic flag, and he goes up to Trea Turner after the game, and he's getting this great audio of what Trea Turner was thinking about when he was being booed, if he heard the boos, if Trea Turner, what he was thinking about when he heard the boos, and how his own mother responded via text about his horrific 4th at bat of the ballgame.
They don't bother me. My mom prepared me for anything in this game or in this world. So she was tough on me from an early age, and not much phases me. So,
Did she ever boo you?
She told me today she was booing me. She actually texted me and said, good game except for your fourth at bat. And I said, yeah, not a good one. And she said I was booing you. So, yeah, she's why I'm here. One of the reasons why I'm here.
Yeah, and we always, a lot of times we get lost in the idea these guys are athletes. And rightfully so, because that's the role they play in our lives. They're the athletes of the teams that we root for, right? But he's 29 years old, okay? If you're lucky enough and your mom's still around, right? And my mom is, your mom never stops being your mom. And no matter how old you are, mom is usually going to call you on. If your mom's anything like my mom, she's going to call you on your BS, okay? Trea Turner being 29 years old in that little soundbite right there, in that little post-game news conference, you know what he was? He wasn't the Phillies shortstop. He was the 29-year-old son is what he was. And mom's right there, man. And if your mom's honest, if your mom is the one that, yes, of course, will build you up, but also at the same time, just hit you right between the eyes with some truth, then, yeah, I think Trea Turner is very prepared for Philadelphia. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate you. There's no way to know. They start this 4-game series in Atlanta tonight. There's no way to know whether or not this is the defining moment of Trea Turner's Philadelphia Phillies career. There's no way to know, like even comparing Bryce Harper's numbers in his first, 40 games, 30 days, whatever, 30 games as a Philly, and how they were not that great. There's no way to know that the turnaround has happened or that it's coming. But if there was an indication that it could be happening, I think the most emotional, the most clutch hit, at bat, whatever you want to call it, moment for Trea Turner just happened. That's a pretty good indication. If there's an indication that it could, you would need an epic turning of events. You would need an epic swing. You need an epic hit in the most clutch moment you can think of. And so far, that's pretty much it. Looking at this team now, 3 games under 500 before they embark on this road trip. If there was going to be a moment for Trea Turner that turned things around, I hope that in September, when the Phillies are playing those meaningful games, they look back on, May 24th, and they go, well, man, when Trea Turner first was a Philly, and he was terrible, and he was hitting 256, and then he hit that home run. Do you remember he swung at those 2 pitches in the dirt? One hit the backstop. Well, hopefully when we're looking back on it in September, this is one of the games that we'll think about from earlier in the season that helped turn things around for the Phillies season, that helped turn things around for Trea Turner. And Rob Thompson did talk about that as well after the game, saying how, you never know, but this could be it. If you're going to have a moment to turn things around, this could be the moment things turn around. Not just for the Phillies, but individually Trea Turner as well. Because if you look up and down this Phillies lineup, like guys can hit. It's a matter of getting hits in timely situation, runners in scoring position, obviously. And Alec Boehm has still been the best at doing that for the Phillies, so that's been good. And even if his batting average is falling with runners in scoring position, it's still staying pretty damn good. And last night's a perfect example of that, having runners in scoring position with him coming up with the walk-off hit in the 10th inning. But the biggest thing that I think is really irking the Phillies is not consistently getting their 1-2 batters on. Now, Bryson Stott's been doing a good job of getting on base. Not great, but good. And then Trea Turner has not been good at all at getting on base. But if you get that 1-2 punch, those table setters that we were screaming and yelling for 2-3 weeks ago, they get on base consistently, the both of them, then this Phillies team can make some noise, especially with Bryce Harper having the season he's having already in the early stages of him coming back. Get some early runs in this in ball games for your starting pitchers. Get some early runs for later in the inning, later in the game for your bullpen. Those 1-2-3 punches the Phillies have going right there with Stott, Turner, and Harper, assuming this is the turning point for Trea Turner, then yeah, the Phillies offense can be a force to be reckoned with, like we thought they would be going into the season. Is it the Trea Turner turnaround? I don't know. Could it be? Is there evidence to suggest? Is it a big enough moment to have the Trea Turner turnaround? Yes, absolutely. Only time will prove that right. And let's hope that this is the moment that it is. Hey, confidence is a funny thing for ball players. We all know that. And if Trea Turner gets any semblance of confidence, then this would be a nice time to gather that. His own mother was booing him. Here's something else I know about Trea Turner's mom. One of us. One of us. One of us. She's certainly one of us. That's for sure. Boo her own kid. Damn right. Phillies are back at it against the Atlanta Braves tonight. The number 1 spot Atlanta Braves. 7:20 start time tonight in Atlanta. Like I said, it is a 4-game series. They'll go up against the lefty Dylan Dodd, who has not had the best year so far for the Atlanta Braves. Dylan Dodd, 2-1 on the season with a 6.46 ERA. He has just 3 starts to his name thus far. So if there is going to be a game where the Phillies are able to jump out and maybe get a early lead in this series, this would be the game to do so. Aaron Nola goes for the Phillies. But as for Dylan Dodd, like I said, he is a left-handed pitcher. He's coming off a 3-run, 6-inning, 8-hit performance against the Miami Marlins. Previous to that, he surrendered 7 earned runs on 10 hits against the San Diego Padres. So Dylan Dodd gets the start for the Atlanta Braves tonight, and Aaron Nola will be on the bump for the Phils. 4-3 on the season with a 4.31 ERA, and as we know, Aaron Nola in his last start had one of his best of the season. 7 innings, 2 runs, both of them earned, and struck out 10 in that 12-3 victory over the Chicago Cubs. So let's hope more of the same from Aaron Nola when it comes to his last start to now. And now also, what do we got now for Nola? 5 starts in a row of at least 6 innings of work. So, hey, let's at least go for the quality start against the Atlanta Braves. Let's hope for everything right there. And also, you know what? Let's go ahead. Let's get nuts. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. The Philadelphia Phillies, as of yesterday, were 7.5 games out of first place. They're now 7 games out of first place in the National League. And the other thing we're keeping an eye on here is the wild card. The Phillies right now are just a game and a half out of a wild card spot. So there you go. Look at us. Look at us, huh? Climbing the charts. Climbing the standings. Let's talk a little bit about our Philadelphia Eagles football team. I've talked a lot about the linebacker position of the Eagles. It's my most curious position. All right. How are they going to perform at the linebacker positions, particularly the middle linebacker position? Yesterday, Devontae Smith addressed the media. Devontae Smith talked about, no Super Bowl hangover. We just keep on working. Everyone's working. You just got to keep on proving yourself, right? Jordan Mailata addressed the media. Said the same thing. Got to keep working. He also went on to talk about how great Jason Kelce is. He also went on to talk about how Jeff Stoutland is not only a great offensive line coach, he's a great golf coach as well. And if you remember, about a year ago, Jason Kelce was on this very program, and he was talking about Jeff Stoutland's son is a hell of a golfer. So apparently golf runs in the family. So Stoutland's out there, and he's coaching the guys up in golf. Josh Sweat addressed the media, talking about the expectations for this coming year after a great year that he had last year. And Nakobe Dean took to the table now at the NovaCare Complex to talk about what this year means to him. A couple of the subjects covered were learning while not playing. Imagine going from a national championship, college level, to all of a sudden you're supposed to be a first-round draft pick, you're a third-round draft pick. Supposed to be a starting linebacker, you're not a starting linebacker, you're a special teamer. That's got to be tough. Nakobe Dean on last year, what he learned while sitting on the sidelines.
I learned a lot, from them 2 guys that was in front of me. You kind of learn different thought processes of defenses, where I came from in college and where they came from, and, how different people look at different things on defense. So I learned everything from little techniques to little things on how the league run, how offenses run, in the league. So everything like that, you just learn throughout the season, definitely with the long season we had last year.
Always digesting information. Let's not forget, and I always love bringing it up because it's wild to me, not only was he a mechanical engineering major at Georgia, but he wants to go back and maybe do pre-med. Maybe just pre-med, pass the time. Okay. So the guy is brilliant, and he has an ability, I think, to retain knowledge. Now, why didn't he play? When he's been on this show, I've tried to get to the bottom of that. Is he healthy? Yes, he was healthy. Did he know the playbook? Ask a mechanical engineering major and all that. Did you know the playbook? Yeah, I think I got the playbook. Like, he didn't answer it snarkily by any means, but he understood the playbook. Here he was on the challenge of not playing last year.
I mean, you want to play. I wanted to play. Did I feel like I was ready? Yeah. But at the same time, we was rolling. We was rolling as a team. And the main thing is winning games. I'm here to, over everything is to win games, win championships. So sitting back and playing my role and doing whatever I could do to make this team better was my main focus.
The alpha personality, that's the term we heard it after the draft last year.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to put that aside as a backup, like pick a backup, or were you an alpha?
Nah. I mean, I let my, anytime I got thoughts about something, I let that be known, no matter what kind of position I'm in, and I would do it all for being, helpful. I'm not trying to go run nothing or change it or recreate the wheel or anything like that. But any thoughts I got, I like I said, I am who I am. Yeah, definitely from the game that I'm so passionate about. But if I see something that I feel like we can do better, then I let that be known.
A student of the game, always a student of the game. Good, great, grand. Now I want to see you play football. Like, it's obviously, and you guys know I like to try to get as much of a look and a view, peer into the mindset of these athletes and these coaches, managers, whatever, and listen to their press conferences and just see what's kind of going on in their head and just getting an idea for what they're going to be bringing to the table. Here's why I have faith that Nakobe Dean's going to be a very good linebacker for the Eagles. And it's got nothing to do with a third-round pick because obviously, as I've mentioned many times, we've had back-to-back undrafted middle linebackers that have performed well. They've done their job, all right? TJ Edwards, top 10 linebacker. We talked about this before, Pro Football Focus, because he did his job. Talking with John McMullen of Birds 365 and our friend Jody McDonald as well. When I've gone on their show, they've asked me about it, and they brought up the idea of him being a top 10 linebacker because that's exactly how Pro Football Focus ranked TJ Edwards, because he simply did his job. He wasn't the one to make a big mistake. A guy like Alex Singleton, he was the guy that led the team in tackles 2 years in a row. Did you see big splash plays? Did you see big turning point plays, forcing turnovers, big sacks, anything like that? No. But rarely did you see your linebackers in the backfield going after a quarterback in any type of blitz or anything like that. Rarely did we see it. The thing that is supposed to separate, a couple of things are supposed to separate Nakobe Dean from TJ Edwards and Alex Singleton. Speed, quickness, and something else he was asked about yesterday during his press conference, instincts. It's just understanding what's around you. And I make this argument all the time when it comes to what separates the great athletes from the good athletes. You could find, just athletically speaking, a lot of guys in the NFL that could run the same 40 time, have the same shuttle drill, same reps when it comes to 225 at the bench press and all that. You can find a lot of guys who do the same thing, athletically speaking. So what's the difference? What makes the good athlete a great athlete? And what makes the great athlete a Hall of Famer, right? It's all up here. It's all between the ears. It's all how they take the information in front of them, have it clang around in their old brain, and then how they react to that information. The instinct is one of the biggest things to talk about, one of the biggest factors for any athlete. Seeing the information, processing the information, and making the right decision. Having good instincts is the easiest way to say that. And I think Nakobe Dean has those natural instincts. Now, we'll see the ultimate test, whether or not he can do that at the NFL level, but he certainly did it at the college level. And he is a guy that can, with great instincts, be a difference maker on defense. Now, every once in a while, his instincts might tell him the wrong thing and he'll make a mistake. But I think on the other side of that are going to be some big splash plays that we have not really seen from Eagles linebackers over the last, million years, it feels like. So I cannot wait for the season to start for a multitude of reasons. Jalen Hurts playing, what does happen with the Eagles defensive line, Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis in his sophomore season in the NFL, what Brandon Graham can bring to the table, everything. Everything that we've talked about throughout the season, what DeAndre Swift's role is going to be, if Rashad Penny can stay healthy, there's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to seeing. But the number one thing is Nakobe Dean at linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles, starting linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to see if making the investment of a third-round pick and potentially getting the steal of the draft, I want to see if that actually pans out. I want to see if that guy is actually playing up to the level a lot of people thought he could play at when they thought he'd be a first-round pick, and at worst, a second-round pick. Falling all the way to the third round? What? I want to see if they can really get a huge steal out of all this. And I want to see if they're going to have a playmaking linebacker. Because you're talking about Trotter. It's the name we always go back to. But unfortunately for the Philadelphia Eagles, that's the number one name people look at. Michael Kendricks had some big plays for the Eagles, but not on the regular. But I look at this Eagles team, and I look at this possible, the potential that's there at the linebacking spot right now with Nakobe Dean. And I got my fingers crossed, and I just can't wait to see it come to fruition. Now, that's one change the Eagles are going to be going through this season. There's a couple of other rumored changes that are out there. The I Am Athlete, I think is the name of the podcast. Last week, or I should say earlier this week, DeAndre Hopkins, Cardinals wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, goes on the podcast. And they ask him, hey, what quarterbacks would you love to play for? And DeAndre Hopkins, the 31-year-old wide receiver, all-pro wide receiver, he goes out there on the podcast and he says Jalen Hurts is one of the quarterbacks he'd love to play with. Now, DeAndre Hopkins obviously has ties to Houston. Jalen Hurts obviously has ties to Houston. So I don't know if there's already a relationship there, but let's just say there is not. Okay. Bottom line is the way Jalen Hurts plays football is going to attract players here on both sides of the football because ring shopping has become a very popular thing in Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph, and potentially not DeAndre Hopkins in this particular case, but Julio Jones is another name that's being linked to the Eagles right now. Now, DeAndre Hopkins is an interesting thing because he flat out said he'd love to play with Jalen Hurts. So that got the speculation going. What would it cost? How would you do it? And all that. I think DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best wide receivers I've ever seen play football. He's made some of those spectacular catches I've ever seen anyone make playing football. One-handed catches, just always being – he's always open is the thing with DeAndre Hopkins, right? And I know a lot of people are talking about DeAndre Hopkins potentially coming to Philadelphia. Not happening. Would I like it to happen? Yeah, I like it to happen. I think that'd be great. There's another name that's out there that I really don't have interest in. And this would be a kick the tires moment. This would be a, hey, you know what? We need some depth type of moment. And it is the name Julio Jones. Now, USA Today put together this story of the 10 NFL free agent moves that they'd love to see this summer, including Julio Jones to the Philadelphia Eagles. So you scroll on down to the story itself, and here it is. At this point in his career, by the way, Julio Jones is 34 years old. He'd be chasing a Super Bowl ring. Or he's going to retire, according to USA Today. If the Philadelphia Eagles give him a call, he could reunite with former Titans teammate A.J. Brown and give Philadelphia spectacular depth in its receiving group. Jones's health has been a point of concern in recent seasons. I mean, if you do look at last year, he only played in 10 games last year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and in those games, he only started 5 of those, by the way. But he is a far cry from his days in Atlanta, where it would seem like you could always pencil him in for about 5 straight years of 1,000 yards. Now, how about this? USA Today goes on to say, while the Eagles have a very good receiving core, or receiving room, adding Jones is kind of a luxury move for a team like this. It makes to further the elevate its Super Bowl potential. This, for me, is a in case of emergency break glass. Julio Jones is a difference maker for me anymore. And the other thing is, I know when we see names like DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm just saying this, DeAndre Hopkins' talent on the Eagles, yes, please. Everything that would have to go around it, what you'd have to give up and all that stuff, I'm good. So I'm saying no to DeAndre Hopkins. I'm saying no to Julio Jones. Depth for Julio Jones, I don't mind. Yeah, you bring him in, do a little depth, fine. But one of the things I do say is you got to be careful with is who you're bringing in terms of not just personality, because I know that's what everyone will jump to when it comes to whoever is brought in for whatever reason. Will they fit the locker room? I know a lot of people will bring that up. DeAndre Hopkins, I think, will fit the locker room, and he'll be fine as far as getting along with players in the locker room. Same thing with Julio Jones, and the connections already been made with him and A.J. Brown. That's fine. That's great. But the Eagles with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and then the guy's going to be fighting for third receiver reps, whoever that's going to be, whether it's Zacchaeus, whether that's Quez Watkins, whoever it might be. The Eagles are in a situation right now where they do have an embarrassment of riches. You can always get better, no question. But this team is already so close. And I think this team already has so well-defined roles that I think that's one of the reasons that they will, again, have success next year, or this upcoming season, I should say. And I don't want to throw anything in there that could upset the apple cart, because I think the apple cart is going really well. Now, that doesn't mean you play timid. If you have the opportunity, if somehow DeAndre Hopkins becomes available and it's not expensive in terms of assets or whatever, great. But I think that's an illogical thought. I think him saying he wants to play with Jalen Hurts makes everyone go, "Oh my God, make it happen!" And I just don't see how it happened. Now, Howie's a wizard, and I've given him all the credit in the world for being great at his job, and everything's great with Howie Roseman. But this just seems ridiculous. Yes, I'd love to see it, but I don't see it happening. Julio Jones is, like I said, is a kick the tire depth type of move, and I wouldn't mind seeing it. Whatever. But I know a lot of people will jump to attitudes of anyone else that's brought in here. I will say this. I don't want to test it. I've talked about culture, and I've highlighted every time the Eagles have talked about culture. Every new Eagle that's come in has talked about how great the culture is. Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni have talked about the culture here and all that. As great as any culture can be anywhere, I don't want to test it. Oh, our culture's great. We'll bring in this guy. And that's not to say that Julio Jones or DeAndre Hopkins would be threats to that culture. I'm just saying when you hear these names that are out there with potentially being linked to Philadelphia, one thing I do want to be wary of is, as great as the culture is, I don't want to test it. I'm not saying that specifically applies to DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not saying that specifically applies to Julio Jones. All I'm saying is that when these big names do become available down the line, or these big names do become available for whatever reason, I do want to keep the culture that is here intact. And that's just not to say with good personalities. Like, oh, but everyone's a really nice guy. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm also talking about the culture that's established with the rhythm of the offense, the culture that's established with everyone already knowing their roles. You throw some wrenches into that, and all of a sudden it could come tumbling down. It could be a house of cards type of moment. Remove the one card, everything falls down. I do want to be wary and respectful of that. But damn, the idea of adding talent like DeAndre Hopkins is obviously interesting, obviously eyebrow raising, and obviously worth the discussion and worth some excitement. But it's not worth getting your hopes up, because I see it next to impossible. Now, if the Cardinals go into some kind of fire sale moment, they're going to have a lot of bidders. And I wouldn't want to see the Eagles give up a lot of assets to just have an embarrassment of riches of something they already have the riches at, which is a pretty damn good wide receiving core and overall a stacked offense. Like, the thing is, you look at the Eagles right now, and you have this great offensive line. You have great running back room, I feel. I mean, Kenny Gainwell and DeAndre Swift, fantastic. Like, that's a great 1-2 punch. What you get from Rashad Penny with the, yes, as long as he stays healthy, yes. But to start out the season, start out training camp, you're going to have a hell of a running back room. And Boston Scott still there as well. That's great. That's wonderful. Love it. Then to look at this receiving core, and let's not forget Dallas Goedert as a tight end. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Oh, and an MVP caliber quarterback. Yeah. Your offense is pretty stacked. When you see these names out there, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, it's great. You can get excited. One way more than the other. As one would be huge impact, one would be depth. I really don't hear much more about this Eagles offense. I think you're just talking about sexy names when you're talking about making additions to the Eagles offense. When it comes to the defense, who's your starting safety opposite Reed Blankenship? Sidney Brown, I'd love to see a rookie. Love to see a rookie flourish. Edmonds going to come out there and be great? I don't know. Evans, possible? No, maybe not. No. It's a lot of uncomfortable questions still have to be answered. And Javon Hargrave, in his role with the Eagles, was great last year. And just expecting Jalen Carter to go in there and do anything like that is potentially unfair. I think he'll have a very good season, but I'm not expecting double digits in sacks. Jordan Davis, the step forward, will he take it? Hopefully. Nakobe Dean, same thing. I'm hyping him up, and I want to talk about the guy, and I'm hoping he does great. And it's, to me, the most intriguing. That's the word I was looking for earlier. The most intriguing position right now with the Philadelphia Eagles is the middle linebacker spot. The biggest question mark, though, I think, is the safety position and what happens there. And even if a rookie like Sidney Brown wins the job out of camp, how is he going to perform when the season starts? These are all big question marks. Most of my question marks, my biggest question marks with this team, are on the defensive side of the football. So when we can start talking about names to add to that, that's when I'll get even more excited, because that'll be even more potential of happening. So I'm going to go ahead and cross my fingers that that's the case more than anything. Let me tell you about Steven Singer. Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, the perfect price, online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Now, what is the perfect price? Well, the jewelers are marking things way up just to mark it down a couple of bucks in front of you after you haggle and negotiate and feel like you're begging. Steven Singer is giving you that perfect price, which means it's already marked down. You don't have to worry about negotiating. You don't have to worry about haggling or begging or anything like that. All you have to worry about is what piece of beautiful, dazzling diamond jewelry you want to buy from a real jewelry expert at Steven Singer Jewelers. And you'll get treated like a real family member at the other corner of 8th and Walnut. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, the perfect price, online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. How about the amazing people at Freestone Farm CBD, FreestoneFarmCBD.com. You'll love their tropical tasting Bayax that clocks in at a chart-topping 24.1%, and Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts, so try Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off. How about Manscaped, the leader in below-the-waist grooming? Skin-safe technology helps reduce the risk of nicks so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. So go to manscaped.com. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off and free shipping. You'll love the Platinum Package 4.0, which is the best hygiene bundle yet. Platinum Package 4.0. It comes with their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, as well as their Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. And yes, once again, they come with skin-safe technology that helps you reduce the risk of nicks, so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. Go to manscaped.com. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. How about PHL Sports Nation? Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsNation.com. Let's get to the chat check, see how you guys are doing. April, good morning. What a great game yesterday. Ring the bell. That's why you got to watch every inning. Sean Kilray, what's going on? Sean Kilray, Trey Turner mom even boos him. He's a certified Philly fan. She's a certified Philly fan, like they said. Jim's chiming in. One of us. April, I was thinking the same thing. I was watching the clock, too. I had to get my kid to her choir concert. Oh, what are we singing? That is the worst. When you're watching a game and you're into the game and maybe it hasn't been much of a game, it's been boring, and then it starts to build and build and build, and you're like, I gotta watch the game, but I gotta go. And especially if you're out of market, April, like you. If you're out of market and you can't just like pop the game on the radio, that sucks. Sean Kilrain, this season is early. Phillies have a lot of fight in them. It's definitely a roller coaster ride. Like did I say this on the show yesterday, or did I say this on the post-game show 2 days ago? I think I said it yesterday on the show. I am mad at the Phillies. Like, being mad at a baseball team in May. Like, I think that sums it up well. I'm as mad as you could be for it only being May. That's where I'm at. And I'd love to believe that the Phillies have some kind of crazy turnaround in them. I'd love to believe that you're going to see a type of turnaround that you saw last year. I'd love to see that you're going to have a, fire the manager type of turnaround as the Phillies did last year. But I can't believe it until I see it. And the Phillies got this 10-game road trip here, as we all know. What is a real expectation that you have? Hit me up in the comments. What's a realistic expectation that would actually get you excited about the Phillies for the remainder of the, let's say, pre-All-Star break part of the season? And then maybe even a little after that. But, what's a realistic number that would make you excited for the rest of the year? That would that would really build your excitement. Is it, they got to win 10 out of 10. 10-game winning streak. Okay. 7? 6? Go 500, but with good optics? What is the number? Going into this 10-game road trip, realistic number, without being way too optimistic or way too pessimistic. I'm not going to tell you 5. I'm not going to hedge. But I'm going to tell you right now, if the Phillies just win this road trip, if they find a way to hammer out 6 of the 10 wins against 4 against the Braves, let's not forget, 3 against the Mets, and then 3 against the Marlins, the dreaded Marlins. You win 6 games out of the next 10, I'm going to be pretty excited about that. If the optics are great, I'll be even more excited about it. If you somehow steal 7, I'm putting this team in the World Series. That's where I'll be. That's where I'll be. April, that is savage, and I love it. Mama Turner is telling him the truth. Mama Turner, right between the eyes. Mama Turner knows those pitches, man. Griff McGarry, 4 scoreless innings and only 2 walks. Would love Griff to get his shot soon while we wait for Painter. Griff McGarry, PJ, interesting name you bring up. During last year's trade deadline, that's the name. That's one of the names I was looking at. As far as a name I was hoping the Phillies wouldn't part with. Unfortunately, they didn't. Mihai Sanchez, Turner's mom was the real MVP. The 9th inning is Turner time. Must say, I don't ever want to see Junior Valentine behind the plate again. Yes. By the way, very arrogant calls on both sides. Mihai, I'm glad you brought up the name Junior Valentine. Okay, so a couple of things. Tom McCarthy and John Kruk were confused by Junior Valentine in the first 2 innings of the ball game because he wasn't making it known if it was a ball or strike. Now, if it's a ball, I don't need to tell you guys this, but if it's a ball, generally the umpire will just rock back and do nothing. If it's a strike, even the laziest umpire will go, just strike. Okay? I don't need Leslie Nielsen, Enrico Palazzo behind home plate. Yeah! I don't need that. I just need at least like that. It's causing. For the people on the podcast, I am raising one hand up as to mild mannerly indicate a strike. But he wasn't even doing that yesterday. So I'm like, who the hell doesn't do that? How long has Junior Valentine been around? Is this his first game? I know it's not his first game. He's been around a minute. But I'm like, how long has he really been umpiring? Bebo bop, Google. Thank you. 3 years. Really 2 and some change. And you know what he's famous for? If you know it, just shout it right out. Go ahead. You know what he's famous for the most? Remember when Edmundo Sosa was acquired by the Phillies last year and the video of Edmundo Sosa playing for the St. Louis Cardinals became so famous with him hitting an umpire in the head with an errant throw from shortstop? The umpire that he hit in the head with that baseball and knocked to the ground and caused to bleed, that umpire was Junior Valentine. That's the umpire Edmundo Sosa hit with that baseball. Thanks, Google. I had forgotten that tidbit of information, if I ever knew it at all. But yes, his calls were annoying AF yesterday. And the little confrontation that Rob Thompson talked about after the game as well, when it came to Kirk Kimbrell being out there on the mound and what the argument was about, it did seem rather odd. So yeah, I was not a fan of Junior Valentine. Where am I at? Mihai Sanchez, hopefully this is the Phillies Turner spark. Oh, and not Mike. Yeah, Mike Calitri, Phillies bench coach. It's the second time that he's been the coach this season. Second time in the last 8 games, maybe, because Thompson got thrown out in San Francisco as well. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be the turn. I don't think they're firing Topper and bringing in Calitri. Sean Gillespie, good morning. Sean Kilroy, did you see the report? DeAndre Hopkins wants to play with Jalen Hurts. He has him in his ranking. How do you think Howie would pull such a fleece of a trade? Thoughts? So we did talk about this obviously later. Sean Kilrain, in your words, no bueno for Julio Jones. Yeah, you got me. Or no, you don't want Julio Jones either. I'll kick the tires on Julio Jones. But as far as your question of how Howie pulls it off with DeAndre Hopkins, he doesn't. At this point, he's 31 years old, still playing great football. Howie's not making this deal. This ain't happening. Now, I'm the guy that always says don't put anything past Howie. I'm putting this past Howie, at least right now in this offseason. If they're really looking to unload some assets, if the Cardinals are going full fire sale, then I think you're going to have a lot of bidders for DeAndre Hopkins, who still has plenty left in the tank. But I just don't see it happening. He answered an interview question. I would have more cause to believe this if this was something that was a report. The fact that he was doing an interview with a former player, was it Marshall he's doing the interview with? He's answering a fun interview question. Who do you want to play with? Who do you like playing with? Who would you most want to play with? Oh, Jalen Hurts. Yes. Okay. It raises your eyebrows. It's a fun conversation point. But if this is something that not even necessarily Adam Schefter, but Adam Schefter tweeted out, DeAndre Hopkins wants out. Key teams are the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Bengals. I don't know. And Chiefs. Okay. If that was something, and the Eagles were on that list, then I'd be like, oh, this is interesting. This is very interesting. But the fact that it's like a fun interview question, I don't think there's a real substance to it. Later, if there's a fire sale, then yeah, they can kick it around. But I don't see it happening. I don't think the Phillies would be willing to pay what the cost is going to be, which is going to be what? A couple of maybe a first-round pick, a couple second-round picks. DeAndre Hopkins, if he is traded, could be with the haul that was given to the Houston Texans for him, he might become I don't even know how you would term it, the most expensive wide receiver in the history of the game when it came to draft picks. That'd be pretty bad. Jay Owen. What's up, Jay Owen? I can't wait until they draft Brock Bowers next year. Jay Owen, Kush in the all right. April, they summed up the plate calling when they said in the 9th inning. Well, that was a strike a few innings ago, but it's not now. Very true. T-Bro, I'm sorry. I'm trying to read that. Oh, you want the... T-Bro, what? No, I'm sorry. I want the strike. I want that too. I like that. That's what I want. You know what it reminded me of? I remember when I just started watching baseball. I honestly, God, I remember this. Because I played Little League and then started really watching baseball. Like that was the order for me. And I, thought that the Little League umpires were supposed, I thought the Major League Baseball umpires were supposed to be just like the Little League umpires. Like they say, ball 1, ball 2, ball 3, walk, strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out. And then you watch Major League Baseball and you don't see any reaction for a ball. And then you see a little meh reaction for a strike. And then occasionally the big ring up. Rah! And I enjoy the ring up. I think that's rock them up. I enjoy that. But yeah, every once in a while, an Enrico Palazzo, that would be a lot of fun. That kind of demonstration would be a lot of fun to watch. No question about that. Thanks, everybody, in the chat. You guys are great, as per usual. Let's get to the morning rush. Brought by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Tonight, Philadelphia Phillies start their 10-game road trip, as we mentioned many times on the show. Aaron Nola will get the ball tonight for the Phillies. 7:20 start time. God, I hate that. 7:20 start time. Screw you, Atlanta. 7:20 start time. Aaron Nola gets to start against lefty Dylan Dodd. So that happens. Tonight, I'll be with you guys on the JAKIB Media Phillies post-game show after the game. So it's not just a clever name. And then tonight, of all nights, ladies and gentlemen, the Boston Celtics look to stay alive and, again, stave off elimination against Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. Tip-off tonight, 8:30. We're back in Boston as the Celtics take on the Heat in Game 5 of that 7-game series. 8:30 tonight in Boston. It all goes down. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is the Farzy Show presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. One place, one price, perfect price. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. It's IHateStevenSinger.com. Jim Hyden produced the program today. Wonderful job as per usual. Check in with you guys tonight after the Phillies game on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel for the Phillies post-game show. And then I'll be back with you guys again tomorrow morning as well for a Friday going into Labor Day. Friday going into Memorial Day edition of the Farzy Show. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Talk to you tonight and tomorrow. See you.